there's more heart and love in Aniimo than anything Pokemon has done in over the last decade. I was constantly shocked by how much care has been put into this from the devs and all the little details. Look at this, the promise to meet again. After the event begins, seal your most beloved Aniimo within an egg and hatch it during the official launch. Let's make a vow of bond and meet in the future. It is impossible for me to imagine Pokemon having this much care and passion in the modern day. And this was just a 7-day beta, and I'm fully invested and even very emotional. Dear Verlis, did you just choose me? Then it's a date. Even if I become less dazzling after hatching, you must recognize me at first glance. Of course, no matter how you change, I can always recognize you. Shall we make a promise? I'm also tired from playing. Time to go back to the egg. I need a good sleep. Don't worry, I'll have sweet dreams. It's you. Can you take care of yourself? If you need me, just knock on the egg and wake me up. I will be there for you, because we're friends, right? I had so much fun with you. Next time, let's explore more. I'll be waiting in the egg. And then he goes to sleep! Damn it! And then I got really mad, because that's all it takes? 8 sentences to body anything Pokemon has done in the last decade because the spirit of Pokemon is dead? There's nothing nearly that emotional and about the bond with your Pokemon in modern Pokemon. So with this incredible experience over the last week, after that, I went, yeah, Pokemon is dead, and that's just before getting into how this game has done everything but better. Because we have like the synchro feature when it comes to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, when twining is just so much better. Like, there's no restrictions. I love Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. The dream of playing as a Pokemon is like one of the coolest things ever, and then this just does it passively and makes it awesome. Look at this groovy rodent mage. And instead we get Golden Go, and people are like, wow, Lechonk is peak. I hate everything about what Pokemon has become. And ever since Pokemon Legends Arceus, it's worse than Generation 5, because people are like, well, you aren't a real Pokemon fan, then. No, real fans are the ones that are critical. Real fans are the ones that are hurt when everything changes around you. Generation 5, that was the death of Pokemon. But that's also why I'm kind of hopeful, because Generation 6 brought it back immediately. Now we're in 2 generations of a lull. Can it be saved? I don't think so, for various reasons. Unless Wolfe Glick is banned for being a proven cheater and all that corruption the Pokemon Company has outed, it's GG for Pokemon. The Pokemon Company nonstop features one of the most evil and malicious influencers on the internet that has zero respect or care for Pokemon, and it turns out Pokemon sucks. Wow, who would have guessed? It's all fake, it's all corrupt, and it's impossible to break through that corruption to get the cheaters banned in Pokemon, so then there's no reason to play Pokemon, there's no reason to build community or have any kind of engagement, but also doesn't matter because over 90% of the Pokemon community is just toxic, hateful brats that don't want to work for any of their things, and they all cheat anyways as well. And I can't blame Game Freak for this because of how corrupt the Pokemon Company International is to cover this up from them. I thought Pokemon Worlds 2023 was going to be like it, though. That was the time to reverse. That was the last chance, the last stop to save Pokemon, and then it just didn't happen and didn't materialize it because the cover-up and corruption is just that strong. Like, please, someone in my audience, you got connections in Japan to Nintendo or the Pokemon Company, your uncle actually works there, get Wolf banned. Like, we need to save Pokemon off of that. But then there's no reason to play Pokemon Champions, and if Pokemon Champions is dead on arrival, then there's no reason to play Pokemon, and the entirety of the game is based on being the very best like no one ever was, but the spirit of that is completely dead. Like, Pokemon is competitive. Story is 5 to 10% maybe. If you're playing Pokemon for the story, you're objectively doing it wrong. And if you're not playing the post-game for competitive, or you don't want to grind and train your Pokemon, then you're not a Pokemon trainer, and you're also not a fan of Pokemon, then, like, what's the point? And if the dedicated competitive game flops when Pokemon thrives as a competitive game and needs community around it, then Pokemon's dead, and there's nothing that can be done about it. And the entire time I was playing Aniimo, I was thinking this is what Pokemon Legends Arceus needed to be, which is why I was so upset with the game and got everyone mad at me, because Pokemon Legends Arceus sucks. It's just wasted potential. That's like my biggest gripe with the game. Sure, you can like your crappy tech demo, but it should have been the ultimate Pokemon experience. But Game Freak, they messed up. I don't know why they got the stupid idea of let's make another main series, even though we already have the Let's Go main series, and we're not making Let's Go Johto, even though Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee was really, really good. So they did a stupid fanfic that got nothing right about Pokemon or the spirit of Pokemon. They threw away all the lore. It feels like they just gave up with everything Pokemon had already established, and then the game sucked, and there was no care. That's why I said in my big review about it, where it's like, there's no care, there's no love in Pokemon Legends, and I was really upset because, like, there was so much potential. Imagine open world, Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl with the Legends graphic style. Imagine Game Freak not deliberately bricking all of their mechanics just to make something different and end up with like one of the worst action RPGs of all time that barely functions no matter what you do. And I think the biggest problem is that the Pokemon community is so toxic, Game Freak lost faith in themselves. That like when they sidelined Junichi Masuda, that's when you could tell it was over for the spirit and love of Pokemon, because Pokemon Let's Go, and even Brilliant Diamond Shine Pearl, Junichi Masuda tried his best as director, just be like, see, we can still capture some wonder inside of Pokemon, but everything else is just no. And then they took the hate and the bring back National Dex stuff too seriously, and they were like, all right, let's mix it up, let's give people what they want, changing the battle system. And I don't even know like what redeemable qualities are in Pokemon Legends Arceus that make people like it so much. Even the action boss battles are like the weakest action combat ever that make Mario Odyssey look challenging. It was like way too babied down to even be worth attempting, and now we're seeing the real-time combat for Pokemon Legends EA, which doesn't look like it's going to be any better or bring anything to Pokemon, where it's like, oh, you just drag your Pokemon around, you have like really lame move selection and stuff. And then Aniimo comes out, it's like, oh yeah, this is what real-time Pokemon battle fighting should have been, and Game Freak can't even come close, and Pokemon Legends EA is going to be trash, because Pokemon Legends was careless trash, and there's nothing to build upon. And then with Aniimo, everything is done better compared to Pokemon Legends Arceus, such as the catching a Pokemon just once isn't enough. I hated that with Pokemon Legends, where it's like, okay, yeah, we're now just completely detached from Pokemon, and it's a bad game that just has bad filler mechanics. But with this, for Dex completion, which isn't as mandatory for progression, you do have to like do multiple things, but it's a lot more fun and well implemented because everything about Pokemon Legends was careless. And there's just like so many surprisingly cool things, like the link where it's like, yeah, this is cinematic, this is awesome, this is mobile team fighter game, whatever, where it's just like, it's just a power fantasy of happiness and big numbers and everything looking as good and fan service as possible, but Game Freak just won't. They just refuse. And even reporting your catches is infinitely more satisfying in this game compared to Pokemon Legends Arceus, despite being effectively the same kind of system. But it's like, oh, you get more rewards, it matters more, it feels more fun and interactive, and it actually just kind of works and brings the experience together with the decks. And talking about the decks, the designs are also just like so good for almost everything, but it's also like really easy to see how almost every Aniimo can be someone's favorite. Like, people really love Cornador, and then Tubster is hilarious. Somniwing, I know Butterfly Mommy is making some people weak, and then everything else just like such a happy, fun, good, lovable design that actually has effort put into it, or again, the over-the-top, mega, super-duper fan service. But I don't know, for Generation 8 and Generation 9, Game Freak just decided to stop making cool Pokemon designs. We're gonna have to see what Generation 10 looks like without James Turner. Hopefully he doesn't have any designs carrying over into the new Pokemon games, but like the rest of it is like, wow, look at this. And then Chili just came out, I was like, oh, that's one of like the most charismatic, coolest creatures I've ever seen in a game like this. Pokemon would never. They can't anymore, is how it feels. It's like Game Freak wants to be different and going, yeah, just making only cool stuff is played out or people will get tired of it. These devs went, nah, let's make everything as cool and as cute as possible, and we're just going to keep running with it and everyone's going to love it. And guess what? That worked to make a really great complete Dex. Also, all the expression is like 10 billion% better. I didn't even hold that against Game Freak, but it's like when you're falling apart in so many other ways and you just can't make a caring Pokemon game, it starts to add up. The Shinies are also 10 million times better and really stand out and really have impact. Like, there's some cool Shinies in Pokemon, But again, it's like Game Freak tries to steer away actively from making things as cool as possible, when that was kind of like the whole thing that made Pokemon big back in the 90s, when Sugimori's like, yo, I'm just going to make everything cool, and we need to have some girls on our team so they can make the cute things to fill out the decks, and maybe this is going to work. And then it did. And then, like, back in the day, it was also like a limitation of palette swap, and that was Shinies, but why are they staying away from like custom shinies and like extra effects and stuff? This is making it as over the top and cheesy as possible, and it doesn't diminish from it, it only adds. Because maybe there's a fear you might cheapen things if you just make it way too over the top and dazzling. But no, it turns out that's just the cool way of doing it, and it makes you love everything even more inside of the game, and you just keep taking the designs further and further. We're like, look at this. We turn the magma and like all these rock splinters just into rainbow joy and wonder. Just fan service me up, fam. All I want is passion and care now. And then after the Aniimo gameplay, this is just so bad. Like, how? We get our real-time Pokemon battles. It's just the worst possible implementation of it. But this is the part that the awful community defends. I'm Game Freak's biggest warrior. I'm Pokemon's biggest fan. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, second best Pokemon games. Pokemon Sword and Shield, third best Pokemon games. But those were the most hated. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet get so much hate, and I don't blame Game Freak for that. I blame the underpowered console on launch. Game Freak got held back by the Switch, and then it's like, but Breath of the Wild and Xenoblade. Cool. Game Freak didn't make the best graphical game on the Switch. That doesn't make it bad. You're just too toxic and hateful. And they don't get mad at this. They don't get mad at Pokemon Legends Arceus. They defend that as like, this is what Game Freak needs to do more of. And then Game Freak does more of it. And it's like, oh yeah, Pokemon's dead. And now you look at games like Aniimo and even Palworld, where it's like, oh yeah, this has more love and heart and just passion, soul, that I didn't think I was going to care about the pals in Palworld, because while some of them look really cool, I didn't think I was going to get attached because they're just a means for production. I mean, cruelty is literally a mechanic inside of Palworld. But then the cat ran up and helped me while I was crafting, and I fell in love with all of them. Is he gonna help? Yo, he just comes out and helps. I love it. He just wants to help. And then the non-stop personality and joy of Aniimo, where let's even like go to the main city, because the only thing that's been holding me together as a Pokemon fan is Heart Gold, Soul Silver, which doesn't even have as much love as this game, which is like something I never thought I'd say. And those are the best Pokemon games, but can only do so much back in the day on 2D. And it was really only the dream of Poketopia, where it's like, yeah, being a real Pokemon master, having that immersion in the Pokemon world. But that immersion has been lacking forever. And then you just go into this, it's like, oh, the city is already hype, and you can already just kind of like feel more connection to the world, more this just being that actual Pokemon experience and adventure that you've been longing for so long. As before I even get into the music being incredible, like after this video, go watch the Aniimo trailer and just go, oh, dang, they actually care, and Game Freak can't even at this point. The alpha battles are so intense and awesome. Like, everything is just better than whatever Game Freak's attempts have been. And I don't even think it's complacency, because that's another thing that idiots and stupid people keep saying, like, well, Game Freak feels threatened because they're not innovating enough, and that's why they have to sue Palworld. No, Game Freak is legally forced to defend their patent because the patent was filed before Palworld came out, and yeah, you can't really defend the mechanics once you actually like look at the Game Freak patent, which is also weird because when Palworld was announced years ago, everyone was just like, wow, look at this huge Pokemon ripoff. Now, Palworld has become its own awesome thing, and I don't want Game Freak to like harm them anyways, and it doesn't really look like any major harm has been done or is going to be done. Like, oh, you can't cast your pal into the battle, that doesn't ruin the experience. Same thing with gliding with pals, so like, they're fine. But I'm trying to say it's not a commentary on Game Freak, it's just that they don't want to push the boundary for whatever reason. Again, you can see it in the designs. It's all about subversion and trying to get too cute, with every Pokemon being unique and having the abilities. And hey, look at this, the motorbike dragon actually runs really fast, haha, isn't that cute? But those gimmicks only work once, and then they make pudgy nonsense designs like Smoliv and Lechonk, and there's no substance to care about inside of Pokemon. And then, like, everything, just everything in this game is... But look at the background! Look at how cute and adorable and whimsical and fun the background is, where it's just like, oh, Pokemon would never in this day and age. And then the character designs and all the stuff you can get is also super cool, whereas the trainer customization has only gotten worse. Like, somehow it peaked in Generation 6. Even though Generation 8 was pretty good, there was still more to it and more around the trainer customization in Generation 6. And then Generation 9 was just awful. Like, I'm tired of being a school kid for the millionth time that just has no personality and no substance and no customization. Whereas this game, you can be whatever you want, you can do whatever you want. That's what you gotta love about mobile games. They at least try to sell some kind of anime fantasy, and it works, and Pokemon isn't even close to touching that. And that's another reason why Generation 5 failed, is because they were like, oh, we're going to kind of give up on our core audience and then pander to children, and then Game Freak keeps pandering to children. It's like, well, now you've just made something that can't grow up and isn't evolving, and now it's just bad. There's no heart and soul for whatever weird reason. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee being more adult than Pokemon Legends. And then Pokemon Scarlet and Violet feeling like extra baby down, even though the core game was good. I defend it. It's 10 out of 10. The quality of life in open world does make it a 10 out of 10 experience, especially on Nintendo Switch 2. So my ranking is Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Let's Go, Sword and Shield, and then Scarlet and Violet. And then Aniimo nowhere, and it might actually be the best game ever made. There's like 5 games inside of this. The Battle Tower is a roguelike, so you get to run and you keep getting like buffs and enhancements, and every run is different. You can build your own home and like Animal Crossing style housing and stuff. There's also base mechanics, so if your Aniimo isn't set for combat, it can do other things and work inside your base and produce resources for you. This also has like the anime power fantasy dialed in with really good and fun combat, and all the characters have their own playstyle and combat patterns that you can master with synergies. So the combat system is impossibly deep out of nowhere for just a beta. Everywhere you go in this game, there's another system or more depth or everything being really well thought out and taken care of, and it just makes sense and it just works so well. The exploration, everything. The exploration is great, the questing is great, the little discovery, the chest, the puzzles, the sanctums, which are like shrines in Legend of Zelda. It's really cool. And then also some of the quests go really deep, and you just kind of stumble into something like, oh, that was a thing, and that's just insane. And you might be thinking, well, you've only mentioned a couple of things, seems pretty basic. No, I haven't even brought up half of what's in this game, because twining is a serious mechanic where you actually get to interact with the species. That these little dudes are following me around now because I'm one of them. And there's quests where it's like, hey, you have to twine to talk to this, and then you can unlock quest chains or do progression that way. That's just one little thing inside of it. We haven't talked about cultivation and Prismana and the weather system for exclusive forms that you have to wait until certain weather happens, and then that's going to be available. And then we have all the special forms, and then we have controllable outbreaks, and then there's also the ways that you change the weather, and then there's shiny hunting. There's actually shiny hunting in this game, guys. And when you look at all the items, you get an idea of how deep the system goes. There's different kinds of catching mechanics and stuff where you can throw this out and catch 10 at a time. That's really cool. The training system is also really deep, and the gameplay loop and grinding around it is really cool. That I fight the alphas, I get these items, and I can use that to max out my stats. And there's different ways where you can like increase base stats, you can change forms, you can change other forms. So it's like, oh, if I want to change regional variant, here's an item to just do that. Here's other like grinding mechanics and stuff. So like the gameplay loop is so good. The combat is incredibly fun and hasn't gotten stale after playing like over 60 hours and farming 100 alphas. It's still not stale. My time and effort is rewarded, and I can meaningfully power up my team and then make team compositions and like train multiple ones. There's an item system that goes pretty crazy. There's just stuff everywhere, guys. It's such a good game. Whatever perfect idea of Genshin Poemon comes to your mind, this game is that and more. I don't know how they did it. Somehow they did. It's just filled with love and heart, and that's why it's like Pokemon has made every wrong decision and just feels dead more than ever, especially after how awesome this entire experience and beta has been. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.